Somewhere over your roof, right now, the night is doing what it has always done, holding its scattered stars far, far apart on a field of deep and perfect black. Tonight, gently, and with nowhere at all to be, we are going to drift out past the last planet, into the wide, quiet space between the stars, and wonder, slowly, at just how far apart they really are. It is one of the oldest and calmest wonders there is, and you do not have to do anything with it, tonight or ever. Let the day set itself down now, softly wherever it happens to be. There is nowhere you need to go, and nothing here that needs solving. If it is easy to do, dim the lights a little, and let your body settle into whatever is holding it, the bed, the pillow, the soft weight of the blankets. You do not have to stay awake for any of this. Falling asleep in the middle of a sentence is not a failure here, it is the whole idea. Everything tonight is built to be drifted through, and this voice will go on quietly whether you follow it or not. Take one slow breath in through the nose and let it leave on its own time. Feel your shoulders come down a little and then a little more, and notice how the room already seems softer than it did a moment ago. The day you have had can end here. However it went, whatever it asked of you, it is over now, and the night is wide, and there is a great deal of night left. Sleep does not need to be chased tonight. It only needs to be allowed. While you wait for it, this voice will keep talking, softly, about the sky and about distance, and the waiting itself will grow so calm that somewhere along the way it will simply turn into sleep without your noticing the seam. And tonight, while you rest, we are going to sit with one gentle question. It is a question you could ask at a window as a child, and a lifetime of careful science can answer it. And both of those are welcome here. Step outside in your mind on a clear night and pick the brightest star you can find. Hold your eye on it a moment. It looks close enough to touch, small and bright and near, hung just above the trees. And the quiet truth is that it is so far away that its light, the very light landing in your eye tonight, set out from that star years ago and has been crossing the dark ever since to reach you. The question we will follow slowly is simply this: how far away is the nearest star, really? And why is that great distance not a lonely thing at all, but a kind of peace? Hold that question loosely, the way you would hold something small and worn smooth. There is no urgency in it at all. Here is where we will go, so that you can stop wondering and simply drift. First, we will stand together under the night sky and choose our star. Then we will learn the strange and lovely ruler that astronomers use to measure the dark, the light year, and we will meet the nearest star of all and learn its quiet name. We will shrink the whole sky down to a few grains of sand to feel how far apart they sit, and we will drift through the great emptiness between and out to the fastest thing our hands have ever built, and we will watch the slow, silent tide of the stars themselves. And by the end of tonight, you will feel just how far the nearest star truly is, and why that distance, far from being a sad or frightening thing, is one of the kindest and most restful facts in all the sky. You can rest easy about one thing before we begin. There is no catch in this story, and nothing waiting anywhere along the way to startle you. The stars are far, and they are calm, and they have been exactly this far apart every night since the first person looked up, and they will be tomorrow. If a gentle like or a quiet subscribe feels easy, it helps this small channel drift on and reach other curious minds like yours. And that is the very last thing anyone will ask of you tonight. From here onward, there is only the sky and the dark, and this one soft question unwinding at the pace of sleep. So let your breathing find its own slow rhythm, and let us begin where every question about the sky begins. Outside, after dark, looking up, and so step outside in your mind on a clear and moonless night, somewhere the dark comes all the way down to the ground. There are no street lamps here, no glow from a distant town smudging the edge of things. Only the long quiet of open country and the cool air settling around you. Let your shoulders come down. Tip your head back, slowly, and let the whole of the sky arrive above you. That great deep field of stars that opens all at once when your eyes have had time to soften and adjust. It is a lot to take in, and there is no need to take it all in at once. We are only going to stand here a while, you and I, and look. At first, the sky seems to lie very close. That is the first thing almost everyone feels, standing under a truly dark sky. The stars do not seem to hang at different depths above you. They seem painted, all of them, onto the inside of one enormous dome. A single curved ceiling that arches from one horizon to the other, with you standing quietly at its center. The old peoples who watched this same sky felt it too, and they built the feeling into their stories. A vault of heaven, a bowl turned over the world, a canopy pricked with light. It is one of the most natural feelings there is. The sky looks flat. It looks near, and it looks, on a night like this, almost close enough to touch, and you can feel that nearness in your own body, if you let yourself. There is a soft private sense that if you only had a longer arm, or a tall enough ladder, or a single good jump, you could reach up into that field and brush your fingertips across it. That the stars are gathered just overhead like frost on a high window, like sparks drifting up from a fire and caught somehow at the top of the night. The whole dome seems to sit at one single distance from you, as though every last point of light were pinned to the same far wall. All of them the same small way off, all of them together, near. But that nearness is a gentle trick, and the flatness is a kindly illusion. And tonight, we are going to loosen it, softly. The way you might loosen a knot you are in no hurry to undo, because the stars are not painted on one ceiling. They are not all the same distance away, not even close. They are scattered through a depth so deep that the word deep begins to lose its footing. Some of them far, and some of them unthinkably farther. One behind another, at distances so wildly different from each other, but no dome could ever hold them. Two stars that sit side by side to your eye, two little lights that look like near neighbors leaning together, may in truth be strangers. One of them a great gulf beyond the other, with a vast dark ocean of nothing lying between them that your eye simply cannot see. The sky has depth. It has always had depth. Your eye just has no way to feel it. So let us do one small thing together, slowly. Look across the whole of the sky, unhurried, and find the single brightest star you can see. Take your time with it. There is no wrong choice, and there is no rush at all. Let your gaze wander until one point of light stands out from the rest, steadier and stronger. The the one your eye keeps returning to on its own. When you have it, hold it. Just rest your eyes there, on that one bright star, and let everything else soften into the background and drift. See how near it feels. That is the whole of it. Really, the thing worth sitting with tonight. It is a clean, bright point, sharp and certain, and it sits there so plainly above you that it seems like the most reachable thing in the world, and it does not feel far, and it feels like it belongs to your evening, like the roofline of a house down the road, or the light in a window across a valley, or a lantern someone is carrying along a path you could walk before morning. Your mind takes that little light and quietly files it somewhere close, somewhere within reach, because closeness is the only kind of distance your mind truly knows how to hold. And that is worth being gentle with yourself about, because it is not a failing. It is simply how you are made. You spent your whole life learning distance with your body, and your body only ever went so far, and you learned how far away a thing is by walking to it, by reaching for it, by watching a friend grow small on a road, by throwing something and seeing where it lands. Your sense of distance was built for rooms and fields and the far side of a lake, for the length of a day's travel, for the space a voice can cross when it calls your name across a yard. Those are the distances you can feel. And that bright star, hanging so simply above you, offers your body nothing to measure it against, no road to walk down, no shrinking figure, nothing to reach toward and miss. So your mind does the kind and reasonable thing. It sets the star down somewhere near, among the things it understands. But the truth of that little light is of another order altogether, and it is a calm truth, a restful one, the kind that makes the night feel roomy rather than small. That star you are holding in your eye is not near. It is not on any roofline, not across any valley, not at the far end of any road that any foot could travel, and it is far past the moon, far past the Sunday, far past every planet that wanders our own small quiet corner, and it is so far that the ordinary words for far give out entirely, the way a candle gives out at the edge of a very large dark room. If you set out toward it in the fastest thing human hands have ever built, you would not reach it in your life, nor in 100 lifetimes, nor in a stretch of years so long that the very shapes of the constellations would loosen and drift into new patterns while you were still on your way. And yet, there it is, looking for all the world like something you could cup in your palm. Hold that in your mind, softly, without straining at it. A thing that looks close and is instead impossibly far, and a little light that sits so simply above you and hides behind that simplicity a depth you were never built to feel. There is nothing frightening in it. It is one of the most peaceful puzzles there is, and it has waited patiently over every head that ever tipped back to look. This quiet gap between how near a star seems and how far it truly lies. The star does not mind being misjudged. It has been sending its light across that gulf for longer than there have been eyes to catch it, and it will go on doing so long after. Tonight is a forgotten evening, and it asks nothing of you at all, and it only shines, steady and far, while you lie here and wonder at it. So keep your eyes on it a moment longer, that one bright star you chose, and let the wondering settle into something easy. You do not need to make the distance feel real, and you could not with your body, and you were never meant to. But you can begin to trust that it is there, That great and gentle depth, folded up inside a single point of light, and trusting it is enough for now. The flatness has loosened, and the dome has quietly deepened into an ocean. And that one star you are holding has drifted, in your understanding, from something near your hand to something out past the very edge of what your hand could ever mean, which leaves us with a small, marvelous problem, the kind worth carrying into sleep. If the star is truly that far, farther than miles seem willing to say, then how could anyone ever hope to measure it? How do you put a number to a distance that no foot will ever walk, that no road will ever cross, that your own careful body has no way at all to feel? The star sits there, bright and certain and impossibly far, and it will not come any nearer for our wondering. And to understand how far away it truly is, we need first to understand the strange and beautiful ruler that astronomers use to measure the dark, a ruler made not of miles, but of light. That ruler is the light year, and it is one of the gentlest ideas in all of science. Once you let it settle, it sounds at first like a measure of time, because the word year is folded right into it. And that is the one small knot we will untie together tonight, slowly, with no hurry at all. When we are done, the phrase will feel soft and steady in your mind, the way a familiar word does, and you will be able to hold the size of the sky a little more easily and rest inside it. Let us begin with light itself, because everything else follows from how quickly it moves. Light is the fastest thing there is. In the time it takes you to say the single word now, light has already traveled about 300,000 kilometers, which is about 186,000 miles. And it does this every second, without effort, without slowing, forever. That is hard to picture, so let us make it human for a moment. Imagine the earth beneath you, the whole round world, all its oceans and quiet coastlines and sleeping cities. A beam of light could circle that entire world many times over in a single second, going around and around while you draw one slow breath. Nothing you have ever seen move comes close. A jet crossing the sky, a stone falling, a thought arriving. They are all standing still beside it, and this is not simply the fastest thing we have built, or the fastest thing we have found. It is the fastest that anything can go, the top speed of the whole universe, the one limit that everything else lives beneath. Nothing with weight, nothing you could hold, can ever quite reach it. So hold that in your mind gently, this impossibly swift traveler, light, crossing your whole world many times over between one heartbeat and the next. Now here is the kind and quiet turn, the small knot loosening. A light year is not a measure of how long. It is a measure of how far, and it is a distance, and it is simply the distance that this unimaginably fast light covers if it travels for one whole year, steadily second after second, never resting, never slowing, from one midnight all the way around to the next. We took the fastest thing there is, and we let it run for a full year, and we drew a line at the end of that year, and the length of that line is 1 light year. That is all it is, a ruler made of the sky. And what a long ruler it turns out to be. In 1 year, moving 300,000 kilometers every second, light crosses about 9.46 trillion kilometers, which is about 6 trillion miles. Say those words slowly and let them stay soft. because no mind is built to feel a trillion of anything all at once, and you are not meant to. You are only meant to sense the shape of it, the way you sense the depth of the ocean without counting the drops. It is a distance so long that our ordinary words for far away simply fall quiet before it, and that quiet is a peaceful thing, not a heavy one. Let us try to walk toward it from something small, so the vastness has somewhere to grow from. Think of the longest journey you have ever taken across the ground, a long drive through the dark, hour after hour, the road unrolling under the headlights until your eyes grew tired. On a highway like that, moving all day and all night without stopping, it would take you weeks to circle the earth, even once. And light does that, circles the whole earth many times over in a single second. Now let that same light keep going, not for a second, but for a full minute, and then an hour, and then a day. And it has already left the earth far behind and slipped past the moon, and it is still only beginning. Let it travel for 8 minutes, and it reaches our own Sunday. And let it travel for hours, and it passes the great outer planets. And still, it has not traveled for a whole year. It must keep pouring outward, silent and unslowing, all the way through winter and spring and summer and back to winter again, before it has finally drawn that one long line we call a single light year. Here is another way to feel it, a way that uses our own family of planets as the measuring stick. Our solar system, the Sunday, and all its worlds, the whole sunlit neighborhood we belong to, is very wide. It is so wide that the light which warms your face in the morning has been traveling for minutes to reach you from the Sunday, and to cross from the Sunday all the way out past the most distant planets takes that same swift light many hours. Many hours just to cross from one side of our own small home to the other. And yet the entire width of that home, the full span of everything the Sunday holds close, is only a tiny fraction of a single light year. If our whole solar system were the length of your quiet street, then 1 light year would carry you far beyond the town, beyond the fields, beyond the hills at the edge of everything you can see. The distance we call 1 light year is not the size of a neighborhood. It is the size of the emptiness between neighborhoods, the long dark room that lies between one star and the next. And that is the tender heart of why we measure the sky this way. The spaces out there are so enormous that our familiar rulers, our miles and our kilometers, become too small to be comfortable, the way a thimble is too small to bail an ocean. So we reached for the fastest, longest, most reliable measuring rod in all of nature, the steady stride of light itself, and we let that be our ruler instead. When we say a star lies a certain number of light years away, we are not telling you a date on a calendar. We are telling you a distance, the length of the road between here and there, written in the only unit wide enough to hold it without strain. It is a kindness the universe offers us. Really, a way to speak of the unspeakably far in words that stay calm. So, let this settle all the way down now, the way sediment settles in still water and leaves it clear. A light year is a distance, not a stretch of time. It is how far, not how long, and it is the length of the path that light, the swiftest traveler there is, lays down across a single patient year of going. And the nearest stars to us are not 1 light year away, but several. And the ones scattered deeper into the night are hundreds and thousands and more. each one sitting at the far end of its own long, dark, gentle road of light. And in here softly is where the wonder turns and folds back toward us. And it is the loveliest part of all. So stay with me for one more breath. If a star lies far away across many light years of distance, then the light leaving that star must travel for many years before it can reach your eyes. It cannot arrive any sooner, because even light, even the fastest thing there is, must take all that time to cross all that distance. The light touching your eye tonight did not leave that star tonight. It set out long ago, back when the star was younger, and it has been crossing the dark ever since, patiently without pausing, all through the years while you were living your life down here, until at last, tonight, it finds you looking up. So the night sky is not really a picture of how things are right now. It is a gathering of old light, a great quiet assembly of moments that left their stars long before this evening ever came. Some of that light is a few years old from the nearest neighbors, and some is far older, older than the oldest thing you have ever touched, still traveling, still arriving. When you tilt your head back and let your eyes rest on that scattering of soft points, you are not looking out across space alone. You are looking back across time gently, and there is nothing to fear in that, only a kind of hush, a sense of how patient the universe is and how faithfully its light keeps its long appointment with your eyes. Pick one star now, in your mind any one, a small steady point somewhere over the dark line of the horizon. Let it be yours for a moment. Feel how far away it sits, many light years across the calm and open dark. And remember what that distance means, that the light now leaving it will not reach anyone here for years and years to come. Which means that when you look up at the star you chose, you are not seeing it as it is tonight at all. You are seeing something older, something that left long ago and only now arrives. The light landing softly on your eye tonight is a traveler, and it has been traveling a very long time. It did not arrive in an instant, though it feels that way, the way a star seems to simply be there the moment you tilt your head back and look. That small point of brightness did not switch on for you just now. It set out long ago from very far away, and it has been crossing the dark all this while, patient and steady, to end its long journey here, quietly in the soft dark behind your eyes. To feel why, let us think for a moment about how fast light really is. Light is the swiftest thing there is. Nothing with mass can go faster. It moves at about 300,000 kilometers every second, about 186,000 miles a second, which is quick enough to slip around the whole of the earth many times in a single beat of your heart. A beam of it could cross an ocean before you finished saying the word. On any human scale, light is instant. It reaches across a room before you can notice the crossing, and it is the fastest messenger the universe has. And yet, the sky is so wide, so deeply and gently wide, that even light, that fastest of all travelers, needs time to cross it. This is the tender secret of the night. The distances out there are so vast that we no longer measure them in kilometers, because the numbers would grow too large to hold. Instead, we measure them in the time light takes. A light year is not a stretch of time at all. It is a distance. The distance light covers in one whole year of unbroken travel, about 9.46 trillion kilometers, about 6 trillion miles. One single light year is already a gulf, almost past imagining, and the stars are many, many light years away. So when you look at a star, you are not seeing it as it is right now, in this very moment. You are seeing it as it was when its light first left, years ago, sometimes decades, sometimes centuries. The light took all that time to reach you, and it carries with it a picture of the star from the day it departed. You are looking in the gentlest possible way into the past. The night sky is not a window onto the present. It is a long, soft gallery of moments already gone. Each one still glowing, still arriving, still faithfully making its way to you. There is nothing to fear in this, nothing strange or cold. It is one of the kindest things about the sky. Every clear night, without asking anything of you, the universe hands you the past for free. You lie back, and the old light comes down to meet you, having crossed all that emptiness with your eye as its destination. A star you see low on the horizon may be showing you a moment from before you were born. Another, higher up, may be older. Still, its light already long on its way when your grandparents were young. And all of it, all these different ages of light, arrives together in the same held breath, the same quiet upward glance. Think of the sky, then, as a gathering of old light, a whole museum of the past assembled overhead, and every exhibit arriving at once. Here is a beam that set out a handful of years ago. Beside it, seeming just the same, is one that has been traveling since long before you drew your first breath. They hang together, side by side, telling no one their true ages, mingling the near past and the far past into one calm field of stars. Some of that light is younger than you, and some of it is far older. You cannot tell them apart by looking, and you do not need to, and you only need to receive them, and you can picture it, if you like, in the smallest and kindest of ways. Imagine light setting out from a star as a slow tide of brightness, spreading outward in every direction, patient and even, the way ripples move out across a still pond after the softest touch. It crosses the empty dark for years, for lifetimes, never tiring, because it has nowhere it needs to be and all the time in the world to get there. And on one particular night, on this one, a single thin thread of that spreading brightness happens to pass through the exact small place where you are lying, and it lands, and its long crossing is done. It could have gone anywhere in the whole wide dark. Tonight, a little of it came to you. That is the quiet arithmetic of the night sky, and it asks nothing of you but that you look up and let it arrive. There is a soft wonder in that, if you let yourself rest in it. The light touching you now began its journey when the star was doing something we can no longer see, in a moment that, for the star, has long since passed. And still, the light kept coming all that time, across all that empty dark, never hurrying and never stopping, simply crossing and crossing the enormous quiet, until at last it found the small dark pool of your open eye and came to rest there. Of all the places it could have ended, it ended with you tonight, here. That is not eerie, and that is a gift, handed to you gently, again and again. Every night the sky is clear, and because the light is old, looking outward is always looking backward. The farther away a thing is, the deeper into the past you see it, the more patient and ancient its light has had to be to reach you. To look at the near stars is to glance a few years back, and to look at the faint and distant ones is to look back much further still. Distance and time fold together out here into one quiet thing, so that gazing across space is the same tender act as gazing across the years. You are, in the softest sense, remembering the sky rather than watching it, and the sky remembers itself to you in light. Let that settle over you like a warm blanket, with no hurry and no weight. You do not need to hold any of the numbers, and you do not need to measure anything or keep anything straight. It is enough to know that the small lights above you are travelers from long ago, that they set out patiently and have only now arrived, and that in looking at them you are being shown, kindly and for free, a picture of how things once were. The past is not lost up there. It is still shining, and it is still coming down to you, slow and sure, every single night. Breathe with that for a moment, and let your shoulders come down. The night sky asks nothing of you. It only offers, over and over, this quiet gift of old light, this soft company of moments that have traveled unthinkably far just to be here with you now. There is room in it, and rest in it, and a deep, unhurried calm, as if the whole of the past were leaning gently near to keep you company while you drift towards sleep. Nothing up there is rushing, and nothing is urgent. Everything is simply arriving in its own long and gentle time. And out of all that gathered old light, from all those travelers crossing the endless quiet to reach you, some set out much longer ago than others, because they began much farther away. The faintest, most distant of them carry the oldest pictures, the deepest reaches of the past. But not all stars are far. The dark is wide, yet it is not the same width in every direction. Some of these old lights left long ago, and from very far, while others come to you from much nearer, from just across the edge of our own small corner of the sky, where the very closest of all the stars keeps its patient watch. And of all the stars whose old light reaches you tonight, one is nearer than all the rest, the closest doorway in the dark, and it has a quiet name. Its name is Proxima Centauri, which means, simply and kindly, the nearest star of the Centaur. It is the closest star to us of all the countless stars there are, closer than any other sun in the whole turning sky. And yet its name asks nothing of you, promises no trouble, only tells you gently where it lives and how near it lies. Say it softly to yourself as you settle, Proxima, the near one, and let the word be a small warm lamp you carry out into the dark with you. For that is where we are going now, slowly, the way you would walk out into a cool field at night, in no hurry at all, to stand beneath the one star that is nearer than any other. It lies about 4.24 light years away. That is a distance, remember, not a length of time, though the two are quietly braided together out here. Light itself, the fastest thing there is, travels about 300,000 kilometers every second and cannot be hurried. And even so, it takes about 4.25 years to cross the gulf between that star and your eye. So the light that reaches us from Proxima tonight is not new. It left there when you were a little more than 4 years younger, and it has been sailing calmly across the emptiness ever since. All that long while, just to arrive here in the warm dark and rest upon you. When you look toward it, you are looking a little way back into your own past, and the star is showing you not what it is, but what it was, patiently, the way an old letter still speaks in the writer's voice. And here is the loveliest, gentlest surprise about this nearest of all our neighbors, you cannot see it. For all its nearness, Proxima is far too faint for your eyes to find. It is a small star and a cool one, a red dwarf, dim and quiet, glowing with a low ember-colored warmth rather than a bright white blaze. And though it is the closest sun beyond our own, no one has ever picked it out of the night by eye alone. Think of that for a moment, softly, without any worry in it. The very nearest star of all is one you cannot see. It is out there right now, steady and faithful, closer than anything else in the heavens. And still it keeps its own hushed company, too gentle a light to reach across even 4¼ years and touch your waking sight. There is something restful in that, a kind of shyness in the near dark, a small red star keeping its lamp low so as not to wake anyone. But Proxima does not drift alone out there. It belongs to a little family of stars, a system we call Alpha Centauri, and the rest of that family you can see easily and brightly if you are ever standing far enough south under a clear night. At the heart of the system lie two suns, much like our own, a matched pair called Alpha Centauri A and Alpha Centauri B, circling one another slowly, keeping close company across the ages. They lie about 4.37 light years away, just a touch farther than shy little Proxima. And from our great distance, the two of them blur together into a single point of light. So what looks to the eye like one brilliant star is really two suns held in a slow embrace, shining side by side, their light mingled into a single warm beacon, low in the southern sky. And it is a beacon, indeed. Those two suns together burn as the third brightest point in all the night sky, a bright and steady lantern hung low over the southern horizon, the kind of star a traveler might steer by or a child might wish upon without ever knowing that it is not one star but two, and that a third, dimmer companion drifts somewhere near them in the dark. For that is where Proxima lives, out on the quiet edge of that bright pair, the small red ember keeping its distance from the two golden suns at the center. If your eye could find it, you would see the two bright ones close together, and then, far out to the side and far too faint to notice, the little near star that is actually the closest of the three to us. Proxima moves around that bright central pair, but oh, how slowly it goes. It is bound to them, held by the long, soft tug of gravity across an enormous span of emptiness, and it drifts around them on an orbit so vast and so unhurried that a single trip, once around, takes hundreds of thousands of years. Let that settle over you gently, the way a heavy quilt settles. Not 1 year, not 1,000, but hundreds of thousands of years for a single slow circle. Every human life that has ever been lived, every story ever told by firelight, all of it laid end to end, would not be enough to watch Proxima complete even a small part of one lap around its two bright companions. It is not late and it is not early, and it simply drifts at its own vast and patient pace, the way the tide comes in over a whole long night without you ever quite seeing it move. So picture the little family out there together, quietly as you lie here. Two warm suns at the center, so close in our sky that they look like one, shining as the third brightest star we know. And out beyond them, circling wide and slow across the deep, a small cool red star, dimmer than either, nearer to us than either, taking longer to round them once than our whole species has yet existed. There is no hurry in that place, no strain, no urgency at all. Just 3 stars, keeping a slow and ancient company in the dark, bound gently together, drifting on through the great room of the night as the whole galaxy turns them all around together. It is a calm arrangement, an old and steady one, and it has been holding just so for far longer than there have been eyes to look up at it. And all of it, that whole quiet family, sits only about 4.24 light years from where you are resting now. 4.25 years for light to cross. Light that never slows and never tires. It is the very shortest reach there is between our sun and another, the nearest step across the great dark, and still it is a reach so long that the fastest thing in all creation spends more than 4 years upon it. This is the strange, soft truth of the sky that we keep circling back to, that even the nearest neighbor lies across a gulf so wide that number and imagination begin to come apart in your hands, and the mind, growing pleasantly heavy, cannot quite hold the shape of it. For your eyes tell you the stars are close, scattered just overhead, like sparks above a fire. Near enough, it seems that you might gather them up. And the truth is that the nearest of them all is a light you cannot even see, 4.25 years away, drifting around 2 brighter suns on a circle hundreds of thousands of years wide. The sky is far roomier than it looks, far quieter, far more spacious, and there is nothing frightening in that spaciousness at all. It is only vast and calm and old, like a dark ocean stretching out past every shore, with room enough in it for every star to drift alone and unhurried, and never once feel crowded. You can rest inside a room that large. There is space in it for you. Think, too, of what kind of star it is, this nearest one, and let that be a comfort rather than a puzzle. A red dwarf is a small, thrifty sun, cooler than ours and far more sparing with its light. And for exactly that reason, it is a patient star, a long-lived one, the kind that burns low and slow and steady for a span of time so great that our own bright yellow sun seems almost hasty beside it. Proxima is in no hurry to shine itself out. It will keep its small ember glowing long after many grander stars have spent themselves, tending its low red light with the quiet thrift of something that means to last. So when you turn your thoughts toward it tonight, you are turning toward one of the most enduring, most peaceable kinds of star there is, a soft and faithful little sun that asks for nothing and simply goes on glowing, near to us and unhurried, keeping its slow place at the edge of its 2 bright companions. And so let your breath go slow and easy as we hold this nearest star in mind a moment longer. Proxima, the little red one, shy and faithful and near. Feel how gently the true scale of things has begun to open around you, how the ceiling of the night has lifted away into that soft and endless depth. But a number like 4.25 light years is hard to feel, lying here in the warm dark. So let us shrink the whole sky down to something your hands could hold. Imagine, then, that we could take the Sunday, that enormous burning thing, and shrink it gently down until it was no bigger than a single grain of fine sand held on your fingertip. Just that. The great furnace that fills our daytime sky, the one whose warmth reaches across the whole family of planets, the fire that dawn is made of, brought down softly to one small pale grain resting on the tip of your finger. It is hard, at first, to let the mind agree to something so small. But stay with it a moment, and let it become real. The Sunday, our Sunday, is now a grain of sand, and it weighs almost nothing, and it sits there quietly in the warm dark, waiting for us to look around and see what its world has become. Let us keep that grain steady on your fingertip and slowly build the rest to match it. If the Sunday is now this single grain, then everything the Sunday holds close, all of it has shrunk to the same measure. The planets that once seemed so far apart, the great slow wanderers we know by name, have all drawn in around the grain like the very faintest halo. And here is the first surprising, restful thing. At this scale, the whole solar system, every planet from the innermost to the most distant, the entire span of the Sunday's family would fit within a space smaller than your open hand, cupped around that grain. Not a room, not a field, a space you could close your fingers gently over. Everything you have ever heard called far away, the outer planets, the cold edges, the long dark reaches at the rim of the Sunday's country, all of it gathered into the hollow of one hand around a single grain of sand. Rest there for a breath and feel how small and complete that is. A grain and a soft space around it, no wider than your palm. And that is the whole of home. That is the Sunday and all its children, drawn down to something you could hold without effort. It is not a lonely picture, and it is a tidy, gathered, gentle one, like a small warm house with all its lamps lit, sitting quietly in a very large and very calm night. Now, keeping that hand-sized world resting on your fingertip, we come to the question that this whole model is built to answer. Where, at this same scale, is the next grain? And where is the nearest other star, that small cool neighbor of ours, the closest sun beyond our own? You might expect it to be near, and you might picture it just there, a little way across the table, a few steps down the road. So let yourself feel where it truly falls. At this scale, with the Sunday a grain of sand on your fingertip and its whole family cupped in your hand, the nearest star is another single grain of sand, and it lies about 6 kilometers away. Let that settle slowly, the way a stone settles through deep water, 6 kilometers. Not 6 paces, not 6 streets, 6 kilometers of open air, and then, at the far end of it, one more grain of sand. Think of it as a long, easy walk you might take on a mild evening, out past the edge of a town, along a quiet road, until the houses fall away behind you, and there is only the dark and the road and the soft sound of your own steps. An hour or so of unhurried walking. And in all that walking, from the grain on your fingertip to the grain, waiting at the far end, there is nothing, no other grains along the way, and no scattering of smaller stones. Just the 2 grains, yours and its, held apart by 6 calm kilometers of empty air. This is the thing worth dwelling on, gently for a while. So let us stand here on that quiet road and simply take it in. 2 grains of sand, each of them a blazing sun, and between them a distance you would measure not in inches, but in kilometers of nothing. That is not the crowding of a beach, where the grains lie shoulder to shoulder past counting, and that is the true measure of how the stars are set. If you poured out all the sand of a whole shoreline to stand for the stars, and then spread that sand the way the real stars are spread, each grain would drift kilometers from the next, alone in a great soft quiet, and nearly every grain would spend its long life without ever touching another. That is not a beach at all, and that is the most spacious, the most unhurried arrangement you could imagine. Picture it slowly. A shoreline's worth of sand, each grain a sun, and no two of them within a walk of one another, each one keeping its own wide and gentle field of dark. There is no jostling out here, no touching, no crowd pressing close, and there is only room, given freely, to every single grain. And this, remember, is the near neighbor. This grain, 6 kilometers off, is the closest one there is, the first light out beyond our own. It is not the far country, and it is next door. When we say the Sunday sits in a crowded part of the galaxy, in a busy and well-settled quarter, this is what crowded means out here. This is the neighborhood at its most neighborly. 2 grains of sand, 6 kilometers apart, and a great gentle emptiness laid out in between, like a field under snow. And beyond that near grain, the pattern only opens wider. The next lights set farther still, each one alone in its own broad clearing, so that the whole of the Sunday's country is less a gathering and more a scattering. A handful of small warm grains cast out across a dark so roomy that they will likely never touch. It is a quiet way to live, and a peaceful one, each sun tending its own small circle of worlds, in a stillness that stretches for kilometers on every side. Feel how the model turns the whole sky calm. On the true scale of the sky, the numbers grow so large that the mind slides off them, unable to find a handhold. But here, with a grain on your finger and a walk of 6 kilometers to the next, you can actually hold the shape of it. You can stand on that quiet road in your mind, halfway along, and turn slowly all the way around, and understand that you are floating in the middle of the widest, softest room there is. Behind you, 1 grain, far ahead, 1 grain. And on every other side, in every direction you could face, more open air than you could ever cross, dark and roomy and still. It is the opposite of a crowd, and it is the opposite of a press of bodies, and it is space, real space, the kind you could breathe in forever. And the longer you stand there in the middle of it, the calmer the whole picture grows, until the distance itself begins to feel less like an absence and more like a kind of ease, a great slow openness with nothing in it to hurry you, nothing to reach you before you are ready, nothing but the 2 far grains and the wide soft dark that holds them, and there is nothing anxious in it, nothing that should tighten the chest. Let your shoulders come down as you picture it. The emptiness out there is not a cold cell or a shut door. It is more like the open sea on a windless night, or a wide meadow that runs on past where your eyes can follow, or the huge hush of a cathedral after everyone has gone home. And it is room, and it is unhurried, generous, patient room, the kind that lets a thing simply be without crowding it, without hurrying it along. The 2 grains do not miss each other. They are not lonely, and they simply rest, each in its own vast and peaceful clearing, glowing quietly, keeping their long steady watch across an ocean of calm dark. So take the whole picture into yourself once more, softly, and let it be the shape you drift on. The Sunday, a grain of sand upon your fingertip, its entire family of worlds, gathered into a space smaller than your cupped hand, and the nearest star, its closest neighbor in all of creation, another single grain of sand set down about 6 kilometers away, with a long, gentle, empty walk of nothing in between. That is not a frightening emptiness, and that is a restful one. It is the true and roomy quiet of the stars, the wide, soft distance that holds each one apart and lets each one shine. But an easy question rises out of that quiet, and it is a lovely one to carry down towards sleep. If the two grains sit 6 kilometers apart and the whole way between them is empty, then that space is not really empty of interest, only empty of stars. It is still there, and it is still something. 6 kilometers of it in our small model and unimaginable reaches of it in the true sky, all of it waiting between one light and the next. We tend to think of the dark between the stars as simply nothing, a blank we hurry our eyes across on the way to the next bright point. And yet, it is by far the largest part of everything, far larger than the grains, and it is worth wondering gently what it is made of. So what, then, lies in all that space between the two grains of sand? The honest and beautiful answer is almost nothing at all, and the space between the stars is the emptiest place that exists, emptier than anything you have ever stood inside. Not the hush of a room at night, not the still air of a wide field before dawn, not even the thin, high air of a mountain where each breath seems to reach for something that is barely there. All of those, compared to what waits between the stars, are crowded and thick and busy, full to the brim with the soft jostle of the world. Out there, in the long dark reaches that separate one star from the next, the world simply thins away, gently, patiently, until almost nothing is left. And there is nothing to fear in that. It is only quiet, the deepest and cleanest quiet there is. Let us drift out into it together, slowly the way you might wade out into calm water and feel the shore fall away behind you. Here, past the last thin edge of our own Sunday's reach, the emptiness begins in earnest. This is what astronomers call the interstellar medium, which is a gentle name for the almost nothing that fills the space between the stars. It is not truly empty, not perfectly, and that is one of the tender things about it. There is still a little something out here, drifting, resting, unhurried. But it is so little, so faint and so spread out, that the word emptiness is the truest word we have. Let me tell you how thin it is, because the smallness of it is a kind of wonder. In all the great dark stretch between the stars, there is, on average, only about 1 atom in every cubic centimeter. Hold up your hand in the dark and think of a single small cube of space, no bigger than the tip of your finger. Here on Earth, that little cube would hold uncountable numbers of tiny particles of air, so many that no one could ever finish naming them. All of them moving, touching, brushing past one another without pause. Out there, in that same small cube, there is on average just one lone atom, mostly hydrogen, the simplest and lightest thing there is, floating alone with nothing near it at all. One atom, and then, in the next little cube, perhaps one more, and between them, room, so much room. It is hard, at first, to let a number like that settle into the body, so let us sit with it gently. Think of the emptiest place you can picture, and think of the finest vacuum that clever hands have ever built here on Earth, in the quietest laboratory, sealed and pumped and coaxed toward nothing by every careful means we know. Even that best and emptiest vacuum we have ever made is still far more crowded than the plain ordinary space between the stars. We cannot, with all our care, make anything as empty as the sky already is on its own. The great dark does it effortlessly, without trying, simply by being wide enough to let everything spread thin. And so out here, matter is almost nothing, and the emptiness is almost everything. Let that turn over slowly, like a stone smoothed by water. Almost all of what is out here is not a thing at all, but the calm space between things, the roomy dark that holds the few atoms so far apart from one another that each one drifts alone, a single quiet traveler with no company for a very long way. If you were somehow small enough to ride upon one of those atoms, you could drift for a great while and meet no other. Only the open dark, patient and cool on every side, going gently on and on. I want you to feel this not as a lonely thing but as a restful one, because that is what it truly is. Down here we live inside a fullness we hardly notice. The air presses softly on your skin and fills your lungs and carries every sound to your ears. And it is good and it is warm. But it is also a kind of busyness, a constant faint murmur of the world, touching you from all sides. Out in the interstellar dark there is none of that pressing, none of that murmur. There is a stillness so complete that no stillness on earth has ever quite reached it. No wind, because there is almost nothing to move, and no sound, because sound needs a crowd of particles to carry it, hand to hand. And out here the particles are simply too few and too far apart to pass a whisper along. It is the clean, unbroken quiet of a place where almost nothing is happening and where almost nothing needs to happen forever. There is something clean about a quiet as deep as this. On Earth, even our stillest places keep a little motion in them. A settling of the house, a far-off car on a highway, the soft weather of our own breathing. The interstellar dark keeps none of it. Nothing rushes there, nothing crowds, nothing clamors for attention. The few lone atoms drift so slowly and so far apart that they seem almost to be resting, each one alone in a great calm room, in no hurry to arrive anywhere at all. It is the sort of quiet you might long for on a night when the mind will not settle. A quiet with nothing left in it to disturb, only the wide, even dark going gently on. Rest there a moment with me. Let your shoulders come down. Picture that vast, thin, patient hush stretching away in all directions, cool and dark and utterly calm. A stillness that has kept itself for ages and will keep itself for ages more, undisturbed. It is not a barren place, not a sad one, and it is more like the deep middle of a great ocean at night, far from any shore, where the water lies smooth and black and endless, and the only thing above you is the slow wheel of the stars. There is nothing out there that wishes you harm, and there is only room and quiet, and the long soft dark resting. And here is the gentle truth that this great emptiness carries within it. It is precisely because the space between the stars is so nearly empty that the stars themselves stand so far apart. The two things are one thing, seen from two sides. If the dark between the stars were thick and crowded, the way our air is thick, then a star could not shine its light across such a distance without the light being caught and scattered and lost along the way. But the dark is so clean, so nearly empty, that light can travel through it for years and years almost untouched, crossing gulf after gulf of stillness with hardly a single atom to meet it. The emptiness is what makes the far-off stars possible. It is the wide, quiet room that holds each one at its careful distance from all the others, so that no two ever crowd together, so that every star has around it a great calm pool of dark all its own. Think of it then as spaciousness rather than absence. The emptiness is not a lack of something good. It is the very thing that gives the sky its grandeur, its roominess, its unhurried peace. Each star is set apart, tended by distance, wrapped in more quiet than we can easily imagine, and the emptiness between is the tender keeping that holds them so. When you look up on a clear night and see the stars scattered thin across the black, you are seeing the shape of this emptiness, written in points of light. The stars look far apart because they truly are, and they are so far apart because the space between them is so gently, so thoroughly empty, letting each one keep its long, quiet distance from the rest. So let us not think of the great dark as a void to be crossed and forgotten, but as a real place with a character of its own, calm and clean and silent, the most peaceful place there is. It asks nothing of anyone, and it holds the few faint atoms as softly as it holds the light passing through, and it lets the years go by without hurry or care. If you could stand in it, you would feel no cold wind and hear no sound, only a vast and even stillness on every side, a hush so wide and so patient that it might carry your restless mind gently down into sleep. This is the true nature of the space between the stars, not a nothing, but a great, thin, quiet somewhere, spread so wide and so fine that it feels like the calmest breath the universe ever takes. And it is across just such an emptiness, this clean and silent dark, that the nearest of all the other stars keeps its distance from us. When we turn our attention outward from here and ask which star lies closest, the answer waits at the far side of one of these great calm pools of dark. Its name is Proxima Centauri, a small and cool red dwarf, so faint that no eye alone could ever find it, resting quietly at the near edge of the long emptiness we have been drifting through. It is the closest star there is beyond our own Sunday, and yet even the closest is held far off across all this gentle, patient space, its light taking years upon years to reach us through the clean dark. We will go to meet it soon and stand a while in its faint glow. But first, let this settle softly in you, that even our nearest neighbor is a neighbor only across an ocean of stillness, and Proxima, near as it is only the first of a small and scattered handful of neighbors, each one held far off in its own pool of dark. Step back in your mind until the Sunday itself is just one small light among others, and look at the little neighborhood it keeps. For all our lives, the Sunday has been the great fact of the sky, the source of morning and warmth and every shadow we have ever stood in, and yet from far enough away, it is only a warm point, one lamp among many, no larger to the eye than any of the others. Let it shrink gently until it is a single bright grain hanging in the dark, and let your own weight settle as it does. We are not falling, and we are only drifting outward far enough to see the shape of the place we live in, and the first thing that shape reveals is how much room there is. All our lives we have thought of the Sunday as alone, a single ruler of an empty sky, and in a sense it is, for its nearest companions are so far off that no morning has ever felt their warmth. Yet it is not truly alone. It keeps company of a slow and distant kind, with a scattered few other lights, and from out here we can begin to see them gather softly into view, because here is the quiet truth of it. Out to about 10 light years in every direction, out across a bubble of space, so wide that light itself needs 10 years just to cross from one edge to the other. There are only a dozen or so star systems. A dozen. Not a crowd, not a swarm, not a bright and busy city of suns, but a scattered handful spaced thinly through an enormous dark. You could name them all on your fingers and have fingers left over. Each one sits alone in its own wide clearing, and between them lies mile upon uncountable, mile of gentle empty night. Let us drift toward a few of them. Slowly, the way you might walk a quiet lane at dusk and nod to the far houses without hurrying. There, at about 6 light years, is Barnard's star. A faint red dwarf, a small cool ember of a sun, so dim that your eye alone could never find it, and yet it carries a soft fame of its own. Of all the stars in our sky, it is the fastest to drift, sliding across the dark a little more visibly than its neighbors, the quiet traveler of this quarter of the sky. It is not rushing. Nothing out here rushes. It only wanders a touch more than the rest, patient and unbothered, going about its slow long circuit of the galaxy. And even that famous drift is gentle beyond our ordinary sense of motion, a creeping so slow that a whole human life would barely notice it, a star that seems to fly only because all its neighbors hold so nearly still. Let that be the pace of this whole neighborhood. Then, a place where even the swiftest traveler moves like the hour hand of a clock, too large to see turn. Turn now and let your gaze fall on a brighter neighbor. About 8.6 light years away burns Sirius, the brightest star we see at night, a brilliant clean white light that many of us have looked up at without ever knowing its name. On a winter evening, it is the one that seems to sparkle hardest low over the rooftops, generous and unmistakable. From here, drifting, it is simply another island of light, near enough to be dear to us, far enough that its glow has been traveling more than 8 years just to arrive at your eye tonight. When you look at it, you are not seeing it as it is now. You are seeing the light it let go of years ago, still crossing the gap, still on its way. And there, at about 8 light years, is a smaller, softer thing. Wolf 359, a tiny dim ember of a star, one of the faintest lamps in the whole neighborhood. It asks for nothing, and it simply glows its small, quiet glow in its own patch of dark, keeping to itself, warming whatever little space is close around it, and it would be easy to overlook. And yet it belongs here as fully as the bright ones. One more house with its window lit far down the lane. And this, too, is worth resting on as we drift by, that most of the neighbors are these small dim ones, the faint red and softly glowing suns, quiet and modest and easy to miss, while the few bright ones like Sirius are the rare exception. The sky is mostly made of gentle lights that ask for no attention, going quietly about their long lives in the dark, and that is a restful thing to know. Now hold all of them together in your mind, Barnard's star and Sirius and Wolf 359 and the rest of that scattered dozen, and feel how thinly they are strung. This is the thing worth resting on, the thing the darkness is really made of. It is not that the stars are crowded and the gaps between them small, and it is the other way entirely. The stars are the rare thing, the exception, the occasional bright grain, and the dark is the rule. Each star is an island of light, with a vast, calm, empty sea of night on every side, and no bridge between, and no bustle, and no crowding, There is room out here, and there is so much room. Think of it, if you like, as a scattering of far lighthouses along an enormous dark coast, each one turning its small warmth out into the black, none of them close enough to touch, none of them ever colliding, each with more open water around it than a mind can easily hold. That is not a lonely picture, not really. It is a spacious one, and it is the most unhurried, uncrowded arrangement you could imagine. Every light given a wide clearing of its own, every sun left in peace to keep its own quiet. And that spaciousness is a kind of mercy when you rest in it. Down here we live so close together, our days pressed full of nearness, of voices and traffic, and the constant soft crowding of the world. Out here the opposite is true, and gently so. The neighbors are far, but there is nothing sad in the distance. It is simply the way the sky is built, with enormous stillness between its lights. So much stillness that no star ever disturbs another. So much room that each can burn for age upon age without ever being jostled or hurried or crowded out. They do not lean on one another, and they do not compete for space, and they are simply set out across the dark, well apart, each keeping its own long silence. Let that ease into you as you drift. The neighborhood the Sunday belongs to is not a busy street. It is the quietest possible arrangement of light. A scattered handful of warm points in a great gentle dark, spaced so widely that peace is almost the whole of it. There is no sound out here for anything to break, and there is no motion quick enough to feel, and there is only the slow, patient hanging of a dozen far suns, each in its clearing, each turning through the ages, each content to be exactly as far from the others as it is. If you have ever wished for room to breathe, the sky between the stars is nothing but room. Mile after mile of it, calm and dark and unending. And yet, even as you settle into that vast quiet, a small human thought rises, the way it always does when we look up at a far light. You have been drifting weightless and easy among these islands, letting the distances be only beautiful, only restful, and that is right. That is what they are. But somewhere in us, there is always a gentle wondering that reaches toward the far window and asks softly, could we ever go? Could a thing we built with our own small hands ever cross even the nearest of these dark clearings, ever travel the gap to the closest island of light, ever arrive at one of these far patient suns? It is not a restless question, and it is a tender one, the same one a child asks, looking at a distant lit house across a field at night, wondering how long the walk would be. You do not need to answer it to sleep. The neighborhood will keep its quiet whether we ever cross to it or not, and the stars will go on drifting slowly through their wide dark, whether or not our hands ever follow. But it is a lovely thing to hold as you rest, this last soft wandering at the edge of the neighborhood, the mind reaching gently across all that calm, empty space toward the nearest far light, measuring, in the sleepy way, just how enormous the first step would truly be. It is fair, lying here, to wonder softly whether we could ever cross even the first of those gaps, and to answer that we must look at the fastest thing our hands have ever made. That fastest thing is a small craft called Voyager 1, launched before many of us were born in 1977. It was built by human hands, in rooms with fluorescent light and coffee cups and ordinary afternoons. And then it was set loose upon the sky, and it is a modest thing, really, about the size of a small car, wrapped in gold and foil, carrying its instruments the way a traveler carries a few well-worn tools. And yet, of everything our species has ever made, of every ship and every arrow and every stone thrown across every field in every year of our long story, this quiet little craft is the fastest and the most distant. Nothing we have built has gone further, and nothing we have built has gone faster. It is still out there tonight, still moving, while you lie here and rest. Let us drift out to it for a moment, gently, and travel alongside it in our minds. Voyager 1 is leaving the solar system at about 17 kilometers every second. Say that softly to yourself. 17 kilometers, in the time it takes to draw a single slow breath. That is about 61,000 kilometers an hour. A speed with no meaning to the body, a speed no runner or car or jet could ever hope to hold. If you tried to picture it as a highway, the fastest cars we know would seem to be standing perfectly still beside it, parked forever at the roadside, while Voyager slipped past. It does not speed up and it does not slow down, and it simply goes, hour after hour, year after year, in the great silence, faithful and unhurried, the swiftest arrow we ever loosed into the dark. For a long time it traveled among the planets we know, past the banded storms and the pale rings, out beyond the last of them, into the thinning edge of the Sunday's country. And then, in 2012, it crossed a kind of threshold, a quiet frontier with no fence and no gate, and it passed into interstellar space, into the true between, the emptiness that lies among the stars. No craft had ever gone there before. It is out in that between now, in the almost perfect emptiness, where there is only about one atom in every cubic centimeter, drifting through a stillness deeper than any quiet we could make at home. There was no sound to mark the crossing, and there never is, out there. It simply went on as it always has. Rest with that picture for a while. The small, bright traveler, alone in the enormous calm, and let your breathing slow to match its patience. It carries a message, tucked inside it, a golden record with the sounds of our world upon it, greetings and birdsong and a little music, sent out not in haste, but as a gift, the way you might leave a kind note for someone who may not read it for a very long time. There is no worry in the sending, and there is only the offering, and then the long, gentle drift. It does not check the distance behind it, and it does not count the years, and it only goes on, the way a river goes on, softly and without any strain, into a dark that has room enough for everything. Now here is the gentle arithmetic, and I want you to receive it not as a sad thing, but as a kind and restful one. Voyager is the fastest thing we ever made, and even so, the distances out there are so vast, so tenderly, patiently vast, that its great speed becomes a soft and quiet thing against them. And Voyager is not aimed at any star. It wanders freely, pointed at no particular place. But suppose, just for the ease of imagining, that it had been aimed straight at Proxima Centauri, the nearest star beyond our own Sunday, about 4.24 light-years away. Suppose it were flying true toward that small, cool, faraway ember. Even then, even at 17 kilometers a second, even never slowing and never resting, the journey would take about 70,000 years. Let that number settle over you like a warm blanket, without any weight. 70,000 years. That is longer than all of recorded human history, laid end to end, longer than all the letters and harvests and lullabies our kind has ever known. Longer than the whole memory of the world. The fastest thing we ever built, flying flat out toward the very nearest star, would need more time than we have ever had to give. And this is the heart of the gentle thing I want to leave with you. The reason we will most likely never cross that gap in a single lifetime, or in 100 lifetimes, or in 1,000. It is not because we are too small, or too slow, or too late. And it is simply because the distance is so beautifully, so kindly large. And here, if you let it, is where the peace comes in. That great distance is not a wall, and it is not a loss. It is a kind of tenderness built into the shape of things. Because the stars are so far, the universe stays unhurried. Nothing out there comes rushing at us in the night. The sky above your roof turns slowly, patiently, exactly as it has turned over every sleeper who ever lived, and it asks nothing of you, and it hurries nowhere, and the very emptiness that keeps the stars so far away is the same emptiness that keeps the sky calm and gentle and safe. And the distance is not a thing that shuts us out. It is a wide, quiet room, and we are resting in it. And notice, if you will, how the great speed and the great distance together make a kind of stillness. 17 kilometers every second is a blur past anything on Earth, and yet against the width of the space between the stars it becomes slow and patient, almost gentle, the way a fast-flowing stream looks calm and glassy when you watch it from far above. The speed does not feel like speed out there, it feels like drifting. The distance is so kind and so large that it takes the hurry out of even the fastest thing we ever made and turns it into a long, slow, peaceful crossing. The kind of journey a body could rest inside of forever. There is a deep restfulness in a journey that no one needs to rush. Think of it. Voyager is in no hurry at all. It has 70,000 years and more to spare, and it spends them freely, one silent second at a time, asking nothing, needing nothing, arriving nowhere in particular, and perfectly at ease with that. And it does not strain toward the finish. There is no finish, and there is only the going, slow and steady and calm, through a dark so soft it holds the little craft like water holds a drifting leaf. We do not have to reach the stars, and we were never meant to reach them in a single leap. And the stars, for their part, are patient beyond all our measuring. They will wait far longer than any of us will live, far longer than our children's children, far longer than the whole long line of us. And they are in no hurry either. Nothing out there is. So let go, for tonight, of the idea that the distance must be crossed. Let go of the reaching. You do not have to arrive anywhere. Voyager does not, and it is content. The universe is not a race, and the far stars are not a prize withheld from us. They are simply there, glimmering softly at the edge of the dark, keeping their gentle distance. And that distance is the very thing that lets the whole vast sky feel calm. A journey too long to finish is also a journey too long to fear. There is nothing to hurry toward and nothing to fall behind. And there is only this, the slow, faithful drift of a small craft we made, still going, out in the quiet on your behalf, while you rest. And there is one more soft thing to rest upon before we let it go. In about 40,000 years, long after all are tonight, Voyager will drift quietly near another star. Not aimed at it, not landing, not stopping, simply passing gently by in the dark, the way a boat drifts near a far shore in the night and then drifts on. Somewhere out there, a small light will grow a little nearer for a while, and our little craft will pass beneath it in perfect silence, carrying its gold and its patient stillness, a small piece of us wandering kindly among the stars. It is a lovely thought to hold as you breathe out. Something we made is out there, unhurried, at peace, drifting among the far suns, in no rush at all, and never afraid. We may be long asleep by then, all of us, and the world may have turned into something we would hardly know, and still the little craft will keep its slow appointment with that far and quiet light, faithful as it has always been. It does not need us to watch, and it does not need anyone to see, and it only drifts on, gently, carrying its small warm greeting into the dark, and that is enough. That has always been enough. Let your shoulders come down and rest in that. The distance is enormous, and it is gentle, and the journey is long past all our years, and it is calm. We will most likely never cross the gap, and that is not a sorrow. It is the reason the night is so quiet and so kind. And yet, even the stars themselves are not standing still while we wonder about reaching them. Slowly, silently, they are all adrift. The stars look fixed to us, pinned forever in their patterns. But that stillness is only the stillness of something very far away, moving very slowly. Think for a moment of standing on a hill in the evening and watching a distant ship far out on the water. It seems to hang there, motionless, held in place against the horizon. And yet, it is moving, steadily and quietly, only so far off that its motion falls below what your eye can hold. The stars are like that ship. Every one of them is traveling, drifting on its own long path, and the only reason they seem nailed to the dark is that the dark is so deep, and their journeys so unhurried, and the gap between us and them so wide that a whole human life is not enough to see the change. So let us stand here a while and let the sky be what it truly is, not a fixed ceiling but a slow tide. Every star you can see is moving. The Sunday carries us along on a great, patient circle around the heart of the galaxy, and each of our neighbors is doing the same, each on its own track, at its own pace, so that all of them are sliding gently past one another across the ages. Astronomers call this slow sideways, slipping the proper motion of a star, its true drift across our line of sight. And it is so gradual that for almost every star in the sky you could watch for your entire lifetime and the lifetimes of your parents and their parents before them, and never once catch it with your eyes alone. The change is real. It is only slow, so slow that it feels like stillness, and that seeming stillness is a kindness. The sky offers you a steadiness you can lean your night against. There is one star that drifts faster than all the rest, and its name is Barnard's star. It is a faint red dwarf, a small cool ember of a star, about 6 light years away, quiet and dim and easy to overlook. But it is the swiftest wanderer in all our sky, and if you could somehow watch it patiently enough, you would see it creep along against the deeper background of stars behind it. Even so, do not imagine it racing. To cross a width equal to the full moon, that small silver coin you know so well when it hangs low over the rooftops. Barnard's star needs about 180 years. 180 years to slide across one moon's width of sky. That is the fastest thing up there, and it is still far, far too slow for any human eye to catch in a single lifetime. Whole generations would have to pass their evenings watching before the shift became plain. So even the sky's quickest traveler moves at the pace of centuries, gently, without hurry, without any sound at all. Let that settle over you. The way the fastest drift of all is still a thing measured in lifetimes, stacked upon lifetimes. It means the sky you are lying beneath tonight is very nearly the same sky your great-grandparents knew, and the same one their great-grandparents knew, the same familiar shapes handed down unbroken. The patterns hold. And yet, over spans far longer than any family memory, over tens of thousands of years, they do very slowly come undone. The constellations we have named and told stories about, the shapes we have leaned on to find our way, are not permanent. Each star within them is drifting on its own errand, some sliding one way and some another, and given enough time they loosen, the way a knot loosens when you stop pulling, and the old familiar figures soften and open and rearrange themselves into new patterns that no one now alive has ever seen or ever will. The sky is quietly writing shapes for eyes that have not yet been born. There is nothing to fear in this, nothing coming loose that should trouble your rest. No shape is torn away, nothing falls. The stars simply loosen their old arrangements, the way sand loosens underfoot, grain by grain, so slowly that even the loosening feels like rest. If you could watch a single constellation across 100,000 years, you would not see it break. You would see it soften. One star easing a little this way and another easing a little that, until at last the old figure had quietly become a new one, and there would never be a single night on which the change felt like anything more than the same calm sky you have always known. It is only the sky breathing very slowly, over ages so long they are hard to hold in the mind. Picture a wide, calm shoreline, and the tide coming in across the sand, across a whole long afternoon. If you watched only for a minute, you would swear the water's edge was fixed, a still line drawn on the beach. Come back hours later, and it has moved, gently, without ever seeming to rush, without a single wave that startled you. The stars move like that tide, only their afternoon is tens of thousands of years long, and their shoreline is the whole vault of night. Nothing is being lost. The water is only rearranging itself, patiently, as it always has, as it always will, and you are simply here for one small breath of it. And because the stars drift, the answer to a simple question quietly changes over time, the question of which star is nearest to us. Tonight the nearest is Proxima Centauri, that small faint red dwarf, about 4.24 light-years away, closer to the Sunday than any other star. It is the nearest tonight, and it has been the nearest for a long while, and for a long while, yet it will keep that place. But it has not always held it, and it will not always hold it. For nearness out here is not a fixed fact, but a slow and shifting thing, a matter of who happens to be drifting past whom. Proxima is our closest neighbor for now, and now, in the long life of the galaxy, is simply the stretch of time that happens to hold us. Look ahead then, gently, without any worry, across the ages still to come. In about 10,000 years, the drifting will have carried Barnard's star, that swift, small ember, in closer than Proxima, and for a season it will be Barnard's star, that holds the title of our nearest neighbor, the closest light in all the dark. And far beyond even that, further along the slow tide than the mind can easily follow, still other stars will come drifting nearer, each in its turn taking up the place of nearest for a while, and then in time giving it up again to another. The nearest star is not one fixed companion standing forever at our side. It is more like a slow procession of quiet neighbors, each drawing near, each keeping us company for an age, each drifting on again, gentle and unhurried, passing the lamp of nearness from hand to hand down the long corridor of time. And none of this, not one small part of it, is anything you need to reach out and catch or hold. It will all unfold whether or not anyone is watching, at a pace so slow and so sure that it asks nothing of you at all. The stars will keep their patterns through your whole life and hand them, all but unchanged, to everyone who comes after you for a very long time, and the loosening of the old shapes, the swift, slow creep of Barnard's star across its moon's width of sky, the far-off changing of the guard among the nearest stars, all of it is happening now, above you silently, and all of it is happening so gently that it will never once disturb a single night's sleep, and the sky is not restless. It is only alive in the slowest and most patient way a thing can be alive, breathing across ages the way a sleeper breathes across a night. So let your shoulders come down and let the sky be exactly what it is, a slow tide of quiet lights that has been drifting since long before you and will keep drifting long after, in no hurry, on no schedule, toward nothing that should trouble you. You are not watching something come apart, and you are resting beneath something that moves the way calm water moves, the way breath moves, the way anything moves when it has all the time there could ever be and nothing at all to prove. The nearness of a star, its place in the pattern, its slow slide across the dark. These are not fixed, and they were never meant to be. And there is a great peace waiting in that, a peace that has to do with distance itself, with how far off it all is, and how slowly it all turns. And so we come, gently, to the last and kindest thing there is to say about all this distance, which is that it is not a sadness at all. For it would be easy, at first, to feel small under all this emptiness, to hear those enormous numbers, and feel a little lonely in the dark. So much space between one warm point and the next, and so many years for a single ray of light to cross the gap. A grain of sand here, and the nearest grain 6 kilometers away, with nothing but quiet air in between. It would be easy, hearing all of that, to feel like a small thing set down in a very large room, and to wonder, softly, whether so much distance means we are alone. But let us turn that feeling over, gently, the way you might turn a smooth stone in your hand, and look at its other side. Because the distance is not what it first seems. The distance is not a wall between you and everything else, and the distance is room. It is the wideness of a house with the windows open on a warm night, and it is the space that lets a thing rest without being crowded. The way you might lie down in the middle of a wide, still field and feel not lonely but held, with the whole sky free above you and no edge pressing in. Think for a moment of what the emptiness actually does. Out there, on average, there is only about 1 atom in every cubic centimeter, mostly hydrogen, a stillness emptier than any vacuum ever made on Earth. And in all that quiet, each star burns calmly in its own place. Nothing jostles it, and nothing leans against it. The great distance is exactly what lets every star keep its own steady fire without another crowding too near. And the Sunday has burned this way, unhurried, for a very long time, and it can go on burning because it has room, because the nearest neighbor keeps a gentle, patient remove, some 4¼ light years off, close enough to be a companion in the sky, and far enough to let both simply be. That is what the vastness gives, not a cold shoulder, but a wide and open space where nothing is rushing at anyone. Consider it softly. Nothing out there is hurtling toward us in a hurry. The stars drift, yes, they all drift slowly across the sky as they and the Sunday travel together around the galaxy. But it is the slowest and most patient of tides, and the star nearest tonight has not always been nearest, and will not always be, and even the fastest wanderer among them takes about 180 years to cross a width no wider than the full moon. There is nothing sudden in the whole sky. Everything moves at the pace of a long, calm breath, so slow it looks, to us, like perfect stillness. You could watch all night and see nothing move at all, and so the emptiness which might have seemed lonely turns out to be a kind of peace. It is the peace of a quiet ocean at night, wide enough that a small boat can rest on it without fear of striking anything. The water dark and even in every direction, the far shore too far to trouble you, and it is the peace of a snowfield before dawn with a single warm window glowing in it. Space enough for everything, and space enough that nothing needs to hurry, nothing needs to compete, nothing needs to press upon anything else. The wideness asks nothing of you, it only holds you, the way the night holds a house, letting it keep its one small light. Feel, if you like, where you are in it. You are lying somewhere warm, on a world that is itself a small warm point in that great dark, turning slowly through the quiet, with all its lamps and hearths and sleeping rooms. Around you the emptiness stretches out for light years, thin and calm and clean, and you are held right in the middle of it, one small warm point among the others, breathing softly. There is a deep restfulness in that, once you let yourself feel it. You do not have to fill the distance, and you do not have to cross it. It is simply there, all around, giving you room. And notice how the distance even softens time. Because light takes years to come to us. When you look up, you are not seeing the stars as they are this moment, but as they were, their old light arriving gentle and unhurried after its long, slow crossing. The night sky is a gathering of old light, patient light, light that set out long before tonight and asked for nothing on the way. Nothing about it is urgent. It has already made its long journey, and now it simply rests on your eyes, calm as candlelight, having taken all the time in the world to reach you. So let the largeness be a comfort rather than a weight. Let your shoulders come down a little, and let the numbers, the trillions of kilometers and the tens of thousands of years, stop being things to measure and become. Instead, just the shape of a very roomy quiet. You are not lost in it, and you are simply resting in it. The way a single ember rests in a wide, dark hearth, surrounded by cool air on every side and glowing all the more softly for it. The dark around a warm thing is not its enemy, and the dark is what lets the warm thing be seen, and the dark is what makes the glow gentle. Think, too, of the little craft we sent out into all that room. Voyager 1 has been drifting for many years now, the farthest thing our hands have ever made, moving at some 17 kilometers every second, and even at that great speed, it crosses the emptiness slowly, patiently, in no hurry to reach anything. If it were aimed straight at the nearest star, it would take about 70,000 years to arrive, and it does not mind. It simply glides through the quiet, one small warm-made thing carried on the wide dark, and in about 40,000 years it will drift softly past another star and go on. There is no urgency out there, none at all, only the long, calm patience of things that have all the room and all the time they could ever need. And there is an old ease in this, older than any of us, the ease of having room. No two stars in all this sky are ever forced to touch. Each keeps its long, slow distance, and in that distance, each is free, drifting its patient orbit, taking hundreds of thousands of years to go once around a neighbor. In no hurry at all, because there is nowhere it needs to be and nothing chasing it there. The solitude of space is not the ache of being alone. It is the freedom of being unhurried, and it is elbow room across the whole width of the galaxy, given freely to everything, forever, and you can borrow a little of that ease now, here in your own small warm place. You can let the vast quiet outside become the quiet inside, wide and even and untroubled. Let the distance be a pillow rather than a chasm, and let the emptiness be the softness of a room with the light low and the door closed against the cold. Everything you need close at hand, and nothing at all rushing toward you from the dark. The stars keep their gentle remove. You keep your warm and settled place. Between the two, there is only calm, patient, open space, and space is a kind thing to have plenty of when you are drifting off to sleep. Breathe it in slowly, that wideness, and breathe it out again. There is more than enough room, and there is more than enough time, and there is more than enough quiet to lay every worry down in and still have space to spare. You are a small warm point held in a great and gentle dark, and the dark means you no harm at all. It only makes a wide and even bed of the whole night sky and lays you down in the middle of it, safe and unhurried. One soft light among a scattering of soft lights, all of them at rest. So let yourself sink towards sleep now, easy and slow, carried by that same unhurried calm. The stars will keep their patient distances all night without your watching, and the old light will go on arriving, gentle as ever. And out beyond your window, the quiet ocean of space will stay just as it is, wide and dark and peaceful, holding its scattered warm lights the way it always has, holding you among them. The distance between the stars is not a wall. It is a kind of peace, wide and quiet and old. And tonight there is more than enough of it to rest in. So let us drift, slowly, back the way we came. Back in past, the fastest craft we ever made, still coasting quietly through the dark on its long patient journey, and back across the great emptiness, with its single thin atom in every cool cubic centimeter, and its almost perfect silence, and back past the small scattered handful of neighbor stars, each one held far off in its own deep pool of night, and back through those trillions upon trillions of empty kilometers, until the Sunday grows warm and near again, and the last planet slides by, and you are here once more, resting under your own small patch of sky. And there, if you turn your eye up one last time, is the star you chose at the very beginning of the night. It has not moved, and it looks exactly as near, and exactly as bright, and exactly as small as it did when we started. But you know something about it now that you did not know before. You know that its light is old, that it left long ago, and crossed an ocean of dark to reach you. And you know that, between you and it, there is almost nothing at all, only distance, quiet, and vast and clean. And you know that the great gap between you is not a loneliness, and not a sadness, but a wide and gentle room, the calmest space there is, with more than enough quiet in it for anyone to rest. That is the whole of it. The stars are very far apart, farther than the mind can truly hold, and that farness is a kind of peace. Nothing out there is coming closer tonight, and nothing needs to. Everything is exactly where it has always been, holding its slow and silent place, turning with the rest of the sky at the pace of 10,000 years. And you are down here in the warm, held safe and small beneath all of it, with nothing left to do and nowhere left to go. So let the star blur softly now, and let your eyes close if they have not already. Let the numbers go. You do not need to carry a single one of them into sleep, and let the distance be exactly what it is, wide and quiet and kind, and let it hold you the way the dark holds the stars, gently and far apart and perfectly at rest. There is nothing more to follow tonight. The sky will keep its place without your watching, and the light will go on arriving, old and slow and patient, whether you are awake for it or not. Rest now. If you would like this voice to carry you out among the stars again on another night, a quiet follow will bring the next journey to you when it comes, but that is for another evening. For now, there is only the wide, calm dark and the far, still stars, and your own slow breathing, easing down and down into sleep. Good night, and rest well, and let the long distance keep you softly until morning.